Okay, welcome to MJ Victims, etc. This is my backup channel. I'm going to let people know that it's on a. Um, this is going to be on a different. Um, I've given a different link, so I'm going to have to just let people know that real quick. Go over here. Just give me one moment. I'm just going to try to get this link out if I can. If someone's watching, can you please go to the original link and let people know that I'm on this link here, and I can't for some reason. Here it is. Guess I can share this. Copy this real quick. Make sure it works. Good. And it does. Great. Shut that off so I don't hear myself speak. Let me go over to this one. Change this. I'm sorry this is taking so long. I wasn't expecting this to work this way, so. Go on to the Facebook page. Okay, so here we go. So tonight's going to be a bit different. What I'm going to do is, and I think probably because I'm doing this such last minute, probably will be seen later on, but um, there's so many Michael Jackson apologist videos, as I call them, out there, and so many are just so they literally feel that they're actually reading from a script, and some of them will even go as far as trying to get verification from people and etc. to try to continue to push the points. But I'm going to play a video, pause it, and then talk and make some comments. It's only a half an hour video. It's probably gonna take longer because I'm gonna pause and stop. But I think it's important to break down some of these videos because they are just so amateurish and they are really not really well researched. They think they're well researched, but they're really not. But let's take a listen. The video that I'm going to be dissecting tonight is called Neverland, Firsthand, Investigating the Michael Jackson Documentary. It's by a guy named Liam McEwen. It's about a little over 30 minutes. So let's take a listen to the beginning, and I'll kind of stop and pause along the way. Here we go. Neverland Firsthand. Let's take a look. And then he writes in a disclaimer, the following film contains information that some viewers might find disturbing and may be not suitable for young audiences, including discussions about sexual violence. Viewer discretion is advised. And then he goes even a little bit further. Sexual violence is never to be taken lightly. The film was not made to degrade victims or devaluate their statements. Well, when you actually listen to this video, I think I might have a different take on that. Again, a lot of these people that think that, well, I'm just defending Michael Jackson. No, you're defending a man that took young children into a bed continually, slept alone with them, has now been accused 8 times, has 2 cash payouts, had one child accurately described the underside of his genitalia. We're finding out the FBI actually was going to have a case on Michael Jackson instead of opening a federal case, which we'll get into that a little bit later on. And there's a whole multitude of things. But so let's listen to what this Liam McEwen, a lot of these people are British, by the way, have to say. So let's take a listen. Nobody was paid to participate in the
An explosive
production.
new documentary set to air on HBO is reigniting claims that Michael Jackson sexually abused children.
You dated Wade Robson, one of the accusers in Leaving Neverland, for over 7 years, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Neverland was unbelievable. I have literally been in every corner, every closet. I mean, there was that level of trust.
They've repeatedly changed their stories, and the evidence overwhelmingly undermines it.
You know, he took the easy way. It makes sense.
I go through with this.
So let's stop it there. There's one statement that he makes. He took the easy way. First of all, I made this statement earlier today. No. There is, and if he's referring to Wade and James, there is no easy way. I don't think hopefully he's referring to Michael Jackson, the payout that he made. But let's go further. I don't want to get ahead of myself here.
I will get big time. I will get everything I want. They will be forever.
This just gets wilder every...
So he plays part of the conversation with Evan Chandler. There's actually a transcript of the full conversation. I wonder if he's actually going to go into the full conversation or just sort of snip it and take certain parts.
every single day.
I will take anybody down that harms a child.
The year was 1993. Michael Jackson was in the middle of his biggest world tour yet, the Dangerous World Tour. He was on top of the world, both musically and professionally. His album sales were through the roof. He had just signed a multi-million-dollar publicity deal with Pepsi, and he owned one of the world's largest music catalogs, ATV Music, which famously included the Beatles. All of this, and then...
Michael Jackson. The pop star is accused of abusing a 13-year-old boy. A 13-year-old boy is accusing the singer of sexual molestation.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. And will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen. Beyond worst nightmares. Sell one more record. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want. They will be destroyed forever.
There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false.
So what I question is, why didn't you play or read the full transcript of that interview? Why did you just pick a certain part of that particular recorded conversation by Anthony Pellicano, by the way? And Anthony Pellicano, not only in one interview, in two jailhouse interviews, stated that Michael Jackson did a whole lot worse than just molest little children. So if you're going to use that recorded conversation that Anthony Pellicano provided, you should probably put a disclaimer in that Anthony Pellicano also stated that Michael Jackson did far worse things than just molest children. It's amazing how you guys just pick these sort of prime pieces without going further and deeper into it. So let's go for very glossy type video, by the way. I'll put a link into this so you can see for yourself. But unfortunately, hey, I'm low tech here, but as low tech as it is, the information you're getting is really, really good. I've been doing this for 5.5, 6 years now. Trust me, I've seen all of this, what I call glossy, shiny object type material. And he writes, in January 1984, a financial settlement was reached for $23 million with the Chandler family, and in September a criminal investigation was closed. Let's go further.
The target of an extortion attempt.
Now, I've seen people say that because a settlement was reached in the Jordan Chandler case, that's a sign of Michael's guilt. What are your thoughts on that?
The money that was paid out to Jordy Chandler didn't come from Michael Jackson. It came from his insurance company.
So, the man that said it came from his insurance company was a private investigator named Scott Ross. Scott, I don't think you're a moron. I think you know that there was a statute on the books during that time period that said an insurance company could not pay out for criminal activity. And if you actually did even a little bit more research, you would actually see that there was actually in articles at the time that was talking about how Johnny Cochran was hoping to get the insurance company to settle the claim. The insurance company essentially laughed at Johnny Cochran, and then they sort of acquiesced and said, you know what, we will pay for Michael Jackson's legal defense, but we are not paying for a settlement. Johnny Cochran denied that, and what happened was that they got nothing. So you can continue to push the insurance company, laughable insurance company claim that even Tom Mesereau, the Michael Jackson apologist, of the century, basically said did not happen. And talk to Scott Ross, who's going to basically tell you his version, his love affair with Michael Jackson. He says, I don't really, I've never really been into Michael Jackson, but the amount of interviews this guy has done on sycophant shows are unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I don't believe you, Scott Ross, for 1 second that you don't have an agenda. Don't believe it. Sorry, my opinion. Let's go further.
You ever had a car accident? You say, but it wasn't my fault. The insurance company doesn't give a shit. They make a decision and they do what they want to do.
You don't know how insurance companies work. When you make a claim, it's like any type of claim, even a medical insurance. Everything's coded. So whatever claim that you make, there actually has to be a code for that particular claim and why you're paying it out. Insurance companies don't freely give out money for claims, especially when they have any out whatsoever. There was a statute in the books that stated they cannot pay for they cannot pay for criminal activity. Michael Jackson, by paying that settlement, even though he might have tried to have his lawyers reworded, even though he might have had his put a pretty picture on it, the claim from Jordan Chandler, from the Chandlers, that was Michael Jackson sexually abused Jordan Chandler. Okay? An insurance company's not paying on that. Doesn't make a difference how they window dress it, they're not paying for it. Show me the documentation that where an insurance company signed off that they were actually paying for that claim. Michael Jackson himself stated in an interview that he wanted to pay it off and just be done with it and get rid of it. But anyways, even without using that, there was a statute on the books. Insurance companies cannot pay for criminal activity. Otherwise, people would be committing criminal activities like this all the time and having their insurance companies pay them off. I mean, common logic. But we'll go further.
Everybody's going, but if he didn't do this, why is he paying this guy $20 million or the family $20 million? He didn't do it. The insurance company did it.
By this.
Well, let's take that a step further. Let's pretend that he is correct. An insurance company cannot force anybody to settle a claim. They can't force anybody to settle a claim. So are you stating that, well, Michael Jackson, because they can't force him to settle a claim, it's like, the insurance company's going to pay for it anyways. I don't care what my reputation is. I'm not going to fight for my good name. Let's use your poor information and use that as an argument. Oh, the insurance company is just going to pay for that claim, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let it happen. Utterly, totally ridiculous. Let's go further.
This time in his career, Michael was no stranger to lawsuits, and unfortunately for many celebrities, lawsuits and scandals are a part of life whether the accusations are legitimate or not.
I get sued probably 15 times a year. I have lawyers on a monthly retainer just because you get sued so much when you're famous.
So let's use that as an art. I can't believe he's actually using that as part of the argument. Michael Jackson could have done that as well. He could have kept the lawyer on a retainer, and they could have fought that, and fought that for years. They could have fought that lawsuit for years, a civil lawsuit. And the fact that Michael Jackson had other lawsuits that he did fight, by the way, that he did actually fight and in some cases win, says, well, why didn't he do the same with this? He was capable of doing it with other lawsuits. Why not this one? They don't seem to ask any of these questions. But let's go further from Mr. Liam. God, amateurs. Amateurs.
It may be the most famous star in the world. He's certainly one of the richest, and that makes Michael Jackson a prime target for lawsuits.
Denver singer-songwriter Crystal Cartier is suing Jackson, claiming she wrote Dangerous in 1985.
Another day, another lawsuit for Michael Jackson. This time, his former spokeswoman says she's suing the pop star for $44 million.
I believe I Am Annie from Smooth Criminal.
Michael Jackson's alleged son has just gone public.
Why do you think Michael is such a repeated target for lawsuits?
When you have a certain niceness, people take advantage of it.
So he just played a video that's saying with Will Smith saying that he has a guy on retainer, he gets 15 lawsuits. But according to Taj Jackson, okay, he's trying to make an argument. Well, anyone that's famous, because Britney Spears was another one he brought up. They just happen to be flooded with lawsuits. But he then goes into Taj Jackson. This is how poor. God, these people can't debate. Literally, it's just so frustrating. He then goes and shows Taj Jackson, whose argument is, well, it's because Michael Jackson was so nice. And everyone just saw him as a target. He was just so nice. Really? You might want to ask Paul McCartney that, because Michael Jackson essentially... Paul McCartney was very nice to Michael Jackson, told him about buying publishing rights, and behind his back, he bought Paul McCartney's, the work that Paul McCartney did with the Beatles, and then actually allowed it to be played in ads. That doesn't really sound too nice to me, but oh well. Let's go further.
How you doing? Sheriff's Department, you have a search warrant? Who else is here? Just you?
He writes, nothing incriminating was found. He's talking about the FBI raid. Now, I just did an interview. So this is what happens when you actually reach out to the people that actually were there. I did an interview with somebody, it was a special agent from the FBI, and he said, there was things there, and that, here's a bombshell for you, Liam. Get prepared, Liam. Here's a bombshell. This is what happens when you actually do research. He stated that they wanted to bring a federal case against Michael Jackson, and it involved interstate travel with minors. And it involved Jordan Chandler, because he took Jordan Chandler from different states and abused him in different states. And Jordan Chandler was actually willing to participate in that particular federal claim. And what happened was that it got dragged, and eventually the statute of limitations got drawn out. But see, I found that out because I actually spoke with the man who was there. It's called research. You might want to try it. I know it's difficult. It might be hard for you to handle. But that's actually called research. So they did find things, and that special agent said they found things in the sense of that they found enough that they thought they could even bring a federal case against Michael Jackson. So then he goes on about how he was charged with 7 counts of child molestation, 2 counts of administrating talking to the agent for the purpose of committing a felony. This is up on the screen. You can't see this. The trial began on February 28, 2005.
Find the defendant not guilty of lewd acts
So let's stop it there. What he doesn't play is the dissenting jurors who came out later on that stated that they were basically felt bullied by the person who was the chairhead of the jury, the head of the jury, Paul Rodriguez, who wanted the smoking gun, and they felt pressured into making that decision. And then they had a recent interview with one of the jurors. He said, "Look," he says, they asked, "Well, why did you vote not guilty?" And he stated, about the fact of him being pressured, and he also said the reality was that the defense were highly paid and did their job, and they created reasonable doubt. And he said, "Do I think that Michael Jackson molested children? Yes. But in that particular case, they created reasonable doubt." Doesn't bring any of that up whatsoever. There was another juror that actually did an interview as well back then and recently. And there was even a third juror, who was also at the time, back in 2005, having similar feelings as well. So again, not really covering the full extent of the story, just sort of sprinkling in little things here and there. So let's go to January 2019.
An explosive new documentary set to air on HBO is reigniting claims that Michael Jackson sexually abused children. Wade Robson and James Safechuck accused the pop icon of molesting them when they were young boys.
I know this must be a hard time.
Yes,
because there aren't that many people that know someone quite as well as their ex-partner. You dated Wade Robson, one of the accusers in Leaving Neverland, for over 7 years, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. How did you guys first get together?
I met him approximately in 1991.
And you were how old?
Maybe around 9-10 years old.
Cool.
We met at a photo shoot with my Uncle Michael. Everything went really well. We all hung out together. We were friends, becoming friends, I should say. And then, next thing I knew, he had asked my Uncle Michael if he could get to know me better. He had started to develop a little crush. He asked my Uncle Michael if he would arrange a situation where we could get to know each other better. So my uncle did that. He had us both meet at the ranch. Wade's family was there, his mother, his sister, himself. I was there with my brother. We were there for about a week, just getting to know each other. And towards the end of that trip, he very sweetly turned to me and asked, "Would you be my girlfriend?" And of course, we had gotten along so well, I said yes.
And that started then and last for 7 plus?
7+ years.
7+ years.
We had about a 10-year friendship relationship. It's just hard to pinpoint the exact. So 7+ years.
So it started as I guess a young innocent thing, but then by the end of it, you were in your late teens.
Absolutely.
So it was by all means, a real relationship. Absolutely. By the end of it.
Yeah.
During your time with Wade, what was he like as a boyfriend?
In the beginning of our relationship, or actually, let me rephrase this. Throughout the entire relationship, we were very good friends. Everything was very normal, very supportive of one another. We were very close. He was always either at my house or I was at his house. Our families were friends. His mother was friends with my mother. And this went on for years. Everything was fine until he became about 17, 18 years old. And I started to see his behavior change. And that's when he started to cheat. So, and when you're with someone so long and you're so close to them, you understand that something is changing. There's a difference in behavior. And as I would confront him about these things, he would say, "No, these aren't true. I'm working on this project, or I'm doing this," but constantly lying.
So let's stop that for a moment. So, Brandy Jackson is essentially saying he's cheating. He's 17. Are you kidding me? Are you telling me that a 17-year-old is cheating on his girlfriend? No. What a revelation. I'm sure that never happens. I'm sure that 17-year-olds, 16, 17, 18-year-olds don't cheat on each other. Are you kidding me? Is that really what you're trying to go after here? The fact that a teenager is cheating on you. I hate to break the news to you. I really do. But unfortunately, that's what happens when you're a teenager in many cases. Because at that point, you find out who you are, you you think you're in love, then you're not in love, and then you don't want to hurt the person you're with, and what happens is you go back and forth, and who's cheating on who's seeing who. This is nothing new. That's normal teenage behavior. And then sit there and say, well, I'm going to look at it and then maybe skew this towards this topic. Again, how this Liam can't sit there and basically just laugh is unbelievable. Taking it seriously, sitting, looking at her deadpan seriously. It's just, again, amateurish. And the fact that she started at 9 or 10, come on. First of all, what 9, 10-year-old? You're freaking holding hands at that point. You know, what's sad is that at 9 and 10, Wade had already received, 2 years of, or 3 years of sexual abuse from her uncle. Maybe you should think about that, Brandy. For once, maybe you should think about that. God forbid you do.
That was something I was going to say. Did he ever bring up any infidelities with you?
Yeah, no, he denied them. And there's a woman's intuition, when something is going on. But I had trust and faith in him, and I believed
as you should. He was your boyfriend.
Absolutely, yeah, and best friend.
You tweeted that you found out that Wade cheated on you with multiple women who he hoped would advance his career. You also say you may know one of them because it was a huge pop music scandal.
Yeah.
We have to say allegedly here. The alleged situation was that he cheated on you with Britney Spears when he was working with her, the slave for you Britney days.
Yes, exactly.
Which then resulted in her relationship with Justin Timberlake.
William, why are you even including this? It's about a teenager cheating on another teenager. Are you seriously thinking that this is actually good journalism? Are you seriously thinking this is good research? Who cares? Seriously, who cares? I mean, we're not talking about, people that were in, 40-year marriages. We're talking about somebody that dated somebody casually when they were 9, 10, 11, and then ended up having a teenage romance, and then they were cheated on. I mean, please go to any high school. I'm sure you can hear tons of these stories. That's what happens when you're a teenager. I hate to break the news to you. It's more common to have that than the actual opposite thing happen. Just unreal. But let's go further. Oh, Lord, these people are just total sycophants.
Ending. Was that the end? Was that the cut-off moment there?
Yes, but that was also one of the situations where I felt something wasn't right, and I was confronting him about that, one of those in particular, which he continued to deny. And then somebody very close to me, who was also close to him, was able to tell me, no, these things are true, and it's not just this one. He's sleeping with this person, and this person, and this person. And when I spoke...
Stop it there. So let's use your... Thank you for giving us information that actually backs his story, Brandy. A big symptom of sexual abuse is promiscuity. Okay? That is a very big symptom, especially for heterosexual males that were abused by males. What happens is that they try to prove to themselves that they're heterosexual. They want to make sure that they have to show, they were abused by a man, but they want to, have conquest to continually reinforce the fact that they are heterosexual. So Liam, you actually got some good information out of her. Not useless fluff. They said this is nothing but a puff piece. Oh, Lord. He looks like Kenny G.
Spoke to a few of these other women, I found out that these were in fact true.
And these women were people, as you say, who he thought would advance his career, help advance his career. It's interesting because a note was found and confirmed to be written by Wade that stated this, and I quote, "My story of abuse and its effects will make me relatable/relevant."
Right.
The last sentence of that note said, "It's time for me to get mine." When questioned and asked what he meant by that last sentence, he said he didn't know and he didn't remember. What do you think he meant by "it's time for me to get mine"?
I think he meant just what he's doing now. He has always been a bit of an opportunist, and he gets it. I'm going to say, I feel comfortable saying this, he gets this from his mother. and he knows how to position himself into different situations that will benefit him in a financial way. So once he had nothing else to climb for, once he was being taken off of the Cirque du Soleil show and other jobs weren't coming through, this was his next outlet.
Right.
So let's just blow that argument out of the water. He's an opportunist. Really? So if he cheated on you, as you're stating, and as you're saying, what, you were in your late teens, and he was somewhat of an opportunist, because that's basically what you're basing it on, was that those experiences, then why didn't he seize on the prime opportunity there, Brandy? Why didn't he seize in 2005, when he was 20, 21, 22 years old, and join the bandwagon, jump on the bandwagon, as you probably would say, and go into the criminal arena and accuse Michael Jackson of sexually abusing him? Because at that point, he could have then went to the criminal trial. More than likely, it would have made Michael Jackson would be in jail. That at that point, he was still very famous in the sense of that was one of the height of his fame. He could then be a star witness for the prosecution. Michael Jackson would go to jail, and then he could file a civil claim that would be a breeze. He would just walk over, according to Tom Mesereau, because according to Tom, this is how it works. He would just walk over to the civil court, file a claim, and because it was proven in the criminal court, where it's not the preponderance of the evidence, but beyond a reasonable doubt, he basically has proven his case, and it's just a question of money. So why didn't this opportunist and his opportunist mother, as you state, by the way, why didn't they use that? And why didn't his opportunist mother, by the way, in '93 jump on the bandwagon when she saw that millions of dollars was going to Jordan Chandler? Why didn't she at that point jump on the bandwagon? Again, your argument has just been dissolved because opportunists don't care about, looking good or, putting somebody in jail. They're just going to do whatever they have to do to gain the opportunity. And the fact that he defended Michael Jackson in 2005, in the 2005 trial, so he could become stay a choreographer, where he could have easily got millions and millions of dollars off Michael Jackson and be considered a hero. It would have boosted his career. He would have had millions in the bank, so he could have built on his career. Why didn't he do it then? See, that's the question, Liam. If you actually do your research and you actually know how to interview people, those are the type of questions you ask. You don't put out little puff pieces like this thing. Let's go further. Oh, this is so much fun. Oh, it's so much fun. It really is. It's like watching a comedy of errors.
This is what he means by he will get what he deserves, or he will get his.
And it's interesting that you say that came from his mother.
Okay, and the other thing that they mentioned, I'm going to get mine. Well, maybe that's what he thought. Maybe he thought, you know what, I've been abused for how many years? I've had to live in this hellish type of life, and meanwhile, the rapist is standing around going on whirlwind tours, going all over the world, eating the best eating the best food you could possibly imagine, having a wonderful life, buying whatever he wants and doing whatever he wants, and he is essentially subsidizing that by being quiet because he hasn't spoken about his abuse. And that's what all the victims have done, Brandy, by the way, in my opinion. They subsidized Michael Jackson's lifestyle. Unreal. Let's go for. And what's sad is he tries to make this look so professional. He's standing there taking notes, and he's looking really intense. But again, fluff.
Because, of course, the story goes that Michael first met Wade in Australia in the late 80s. He won a competition to meet Michael, and then they lost contact for a little while, and it was his mother that was trying to get back to Michael, and then eventually, it happened, and then he invited him over, and they met again.
Absolutely.
Now, your relationship with Wade isn't mentioned in the film.
I'm not surprised.
Why do you think that is?
It completely discredits what he's saying. He's saying that he was in a relationship with my uncle. that they were in love and that they were having a relationship, if you will. He's saying that my uncle kept him from women, which is not true. We were just talking about how my uncle put us together. It would discount or discredit the things that he's trying to claim. And I find it fascinating that he thinks he's able to just erase 10 years of his life. Yeah.
That's absolutely total nonsense, and it's insulting, Brandy, to victims. And you know what? I want people to listen to this interview, and I want to listen, in my opinion, to how you are shaming victims by the misinformation you just put out. Unbelievable. You should be utterly and totally ashamed of yourself, Miss Brandy Jackson, because what you're doing is you're stating that, gee, Wade Robson had a relationship with you, and how could he? Because he was being sexually abused by. How could he if he was being sexually abused by my uncle? Guess what? It happens all the time. Your life doesn't stop because you're getting abused. It doesn't stop. And if you actually think about this for a second, by the time he was 9, Michael Jackson was already beginning to push him aside. Okay? Because there were other children that he was beginning to become more interested in. Wouldn't it make sense that he would actually help Wade to meet you? Because that way he could actually have the separation process even become a little bit easier. And he could also keep him contained so that he wouldn't go too far from the nest and maybe speak. You know, it is the way that these, both Taj and and Taj's cousin, etc., are acting, in my opinion, is reprehensible. Absolutely reprehensible. Not so much because they're defending their uncle, but because they're putting out misinformation that harms other victims. It harms them. What you're stating is not accurate. It's not true. It doesn't work that way. And when you state it, just because you think you're stating it about Wade and it won't affect anybody, it's a load of garbage. Yes, it will, because it's bad information. Let's go further.
What would you, I guess, say to Wade now if you had the opportunity to chat to him?
I would confront him about his lies. I would tell him to stop lying. I'm not curious as to why he's doing it. He needs to stop. I don't care what his reasoning is as far as trying to be relevant, desperate for money, whatever it is. These lies need to stop, and it's not okay. This man, my uncle, took care of him and did very well by him and his family, and he knows that.
So, no, Randy, that's your opinion. You don't know what's lies because you weren't there. Why don't you question the fact that your uncle took child after child after child after child alone in a bedroom? Alone. This is a grown man. Stop pretending he was a child. He wasn't. He was a grown man who supposedly had 2 marriages and was a father. So stop it. Stop excusing this behavior. It's not okay, and what you're doing is you are shaming victims. You might not believe that, but that's what you're doing, in my opinion. You are shaming them, because what you're stating is that you somehow magically know because you were dating him. Well, here's a clue for you. Dottie Sandusky, Jerry Sandusky's wife, who was married with Jerry Sandusky and still goes to the prison and visits him all the time. She thinks her husband is innocent. And many other people that actually support your uncle, by the way, also think Jerry Sandusky's innocent. I can give you a couple of names if you wish. It's very strange that some of the people that have come out and talked about how they feel Michael Jackson is innocent also think Jerry Sandusky is innocent. You know, your minimal relationship with him, because that's really what it was. When you're a teenager, there is not a huge major event going on. It really isn't. Your teenage years, you are growing, you're learning, you're beginning to become an adult. A lot of those times, they might seem substantial at the time, but they're not really. It's a growing process. But again, just unbelievable. Let's go further. Well, again, this is a little bit of fun, and this is a whole lot of heartache. But the reality is that I can show how simple it is to break down the nonsense. Let's go further.
got Brad Sundberg on the phone with me now. He worked with Michael across an 18-year span as his technical director, both on his albums and in personal projects, including Neverland Valley Ranch. He currently is running a travelling seminar called In the Studio with MJ. Brad, in Wade's lawsuit against the Jackson estate, he mentions that some of the abuse took place at a...
So let's stop. He's currently running a seminar called In the Studio with MJ. I wonder, I just could be pulling this, maybe, I don't know, assuming this, but I wonder if he has a vested interest. Just asking the question, well, let's go further.
A recording studio named Record One. He said Michael had a sort of green room and that the abuse went on in there. Now, you were at the studio every day with Michael. What are your thoughts on these claims?
Well, Michael did have what we call the private lounge. Whenever you work with an artist of any magnitude, they usually have a lounge where they can go and take a meeting, grab a phone call, grab a nap, watch TV, whatever they want to do. The studio was very closed. Nobody came into the studio really without a reason for being there. So it wasn't like Michael had guests there every day. I mean, the guests were actually pretty infrequent. The perception that Michael always had kids there, kids and chimps and, clowns juggling bowling pins, just there's really no validity to that. We were working.
So you don't believe any of the claims that the abuse happened in the studio?
Let me pull you back and do a bit of a big picture. Number one, I'm a dad. At that point, I had 2 daughters. I've worked with kids in my church for years. I'm very aware of kids. Not in a million years did I ever see a child around Michael Jackson that looked like they had been distressed, hurt, abused. I can't...
So let's stop it there. So what does a victim of child sexual abuse look like? Especially one that's been groomed and one that's been molested and raped by an acquaintance molester. What do they look like? Are they going to have distress on their face? Are they going to look a certain way? You can't tell. And for somebody that works with children, you maybe want to know that. You actually maybe want to understand that fact because there is no look. Okay, I lived through being abused. My family had no clue, zero, nada. I know what that is. There isn't any look. What there is you getting up every day and just trying to go from one day to another, putting a smile on your face and pretending nothing's ever happened. That's what it looks like in many cases. But let me tell you, there is no, you're thinking of Michael Jackson taking a child and roughly throwing them on and violent rape. That's not how he operated. Again, this is what we call amateurish at best. This is what happens when people don't know how to ask follow-up questions, actually understand how abuse works, understanding how the grooming process works, understanding that it's not about this violent action in many ways. But let's go further.
Put my hand on a Bible and say, absolutely nothing happened in that room. It's just, there weren't that many instances. I remember seeing Wade once or twice at the studio. It was not a regular occurrence at all. And there wasn't a sense of wrongdoing or, oh my goodness, what's going on?
Brad, you played a very large part in Michael's vision that was Neverland Valley Ranch. Michael brought you in to design the music and video systems throughout the ranch. There aren't that many people that got to see, I guess, Neverland as thoroughly as you did. So these rumors of, Neverland being some sort of house of horrors and a place to lure children, what are your thoughts on that?
If you hear a chuckle in my voice, it's just out of sheer frustration. Neverland was unbelievable. It was such a peaceful, safe, fun place designed very specifically for kids that were, underprivileged or burn victims or, sick kids, Make-A-Wish kids. Yes, I have literally been in every corner, every closet. I kind of joke with people good-naturedly that I've literally been under Michael Jackson's bed, just pulling speaker wires. I mean, there was that level of trust. Was there a lock on Michael's bedroom? Yeah, it's his bedroom. I have a lock on my bedroom. If I was there to work, it's not like there were people telling me, oh, Brad, you can't open that drawer, you can't open that closet, you can't go. There was none of that. There was nothing that even hinted at, oh, wow, what is this guy into?
There's nothing that even hinted at what is this guy into. He had an amusement park in his backyard. He had a zoo. He had, different teepees set up. He had literally a video arcade, a movie, all these things that attract children. It's what somebody calls an attractive nuisance. And you can't think in your head, gee, I wonder if that could be used to impress children and then lure them, and then I'll pick out the ones that are vulnerable, and then I'll abuse them. And guess what? He's not going to abuse them in front of you. Guess what? Michael Jackson was very, very calculated in his moves. Okay? Not only in the way he danced and the way he acted and all those things. He was very calculated. And it's just amazing. It's like, take your blinders off. There were literally beds behind glass in the movie theater. Now you're going to say, oh, it was for children that, maybe were ill and couldn't watch the movie, had to be in bed and watch the movie, etc. Well, maybe that could also happen as well. But you also have to ask, gee, that does seem a little strange. Let's go further.
Right. At Michael's, it was, it was Shirley Temple and Disney music. And it really was. That's what the guy dug.
Brad, now I read that you helped put a youth worker in prison after you learned that they were harming children. If you had any suspicions of Michael, would you have, reacted the same way?
Yeah, I was in a completely different situation where somebody that I knew and somebody that I was close with actually was harming children. And I immediately, for lack of a better word, turned on that gentleman. And it's not something I dwell on, not something I talk about very much. But when somebody wants to throw it in my face that, well, Brad's just protecting his friend or whatever, no, that's not how I'm wired. I will take anybody down that harms a child.
And no, but it's okay for you to sit there and question two men that are coming forward claiming abuse for a man that admittedly took children into his bed. That you can't see. As a person who works with children, you can't see the red flags in that. Who allows you to work with children? If you can't even see that, what responsible agency allows you to work with children if you can't see that red flag? Brad, seriously, what agency allows you to work with children if you can't even see? That is a red flag beyond red flags. I mean, it is literally mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. But let's go further.
So I'm talking to Scott Ross, who was one of Hollywood's top private investigators. He was the private investigator for the defense in the Michael Jackson trial in 2005. Did you ever find anything during your time working on the trial for the defense when you thought, hang on, maybe I'm on the wrong team here?
Nope.
No, are you telling me the private investigator that's given all these interviews, all these sycophant shows, doesn't find Michael Jackson, that he didn't find anything whatsoever? And that if he did, he would actually admit to it? Is that what you're saying to me? Am I supposed to sit there and say this man's impartial in any way, shape, or form? I've seen his handiwork. Okay, I've seen this guy's handiwork, and I'm sorry, Mr. Scott Ross. My opinion, I don't think you're impartial in any way, shape, or form. I think you have an agenda, and I think that agenda, even though it might not even be known to you, it could be a very subconscious type thing, is that your time with him was your heyday. That you were with somebody who was very well known, who was an icon. You state in one interview, "Oh no, I don't really care about Michael Jackson." That's a load of garbage because I've seen you on other interviews before. So that doesn't pass the smell test at all. Let's go further.
Well, and that segues into the real meat of the question. If I truly, for 1/10 of 1 second, believed that Wade Robson was telling the truth, he wouldn't have been my first witness. The reason that we put him on first is because he was our strongest witness.
Again, this is where you don't know what you're talking about. When you are not ready to disclose information, can educate yourself, Mr. Ross. Educate yourself. Talk to survivors. Talk to people who actually work with survivors. Literally, and talk to people that don't agree with you, by the way. Listen to what they have to say. When you're not ready to disclose, guess what? You make a very good liar. Because it's going to be, hell or high water before you're going to come forward. Because you do not want to come forward with information that's going to harm you. And if you've been groomed to the point of no return, you also feel that you're betraying the person. You feel that in some way maybe you are responsible for your own abuse. That's how it works. You don't have a magic lie detector, apparatus in your brain. I hate to break the news to you. Get over yourself. You don't. What happens is that Wade Robson, and I stated this before, again, if you wanted to be an opportunist, this was the perfect time to be an opportunist. Perfect time. But what he was doing was he was protecting somebody that he cared about, and he was protecting his own well-being. Because now, if he tells the truth about Michael Jackson, somebody he cares about goes to prison, and then his whole world falls apart. Because that's what his life was about for all those years. And that makes him a good liar. That makes him somebody believable because he's not in a position in that moment to speak up. And this is, again, what you don't understand is the information that you're putting out hurts victims. It hurts them because you're not putting out correct information. Just because you couldn't figure out he was lying about what was happening to him doesn't mean that it wasn't the case. Again, get over yourself. Let's go further.
He was the most credible. He was the most believable. When the prosecution goes, they go first. So when you call your first witness, the prosecution has already put on their case. They have in their mind, have already hammered away at the jury going, guilty, 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 guilty. So by the time you get your turn, the time you get your bite at the apple, the first thing you want to do is put on your strongest witness, because the jury sits there and they listen to your witness. If you get a strong witness, the first thing they're going to think is, oh, wait a minute, okay, it's not so cut and dry. Let's hear what else they have to say. That's why you always, always, always start with your strongest witness. In our case, that was Wade Robson. Wade Robson had to get through 3 seasoned, experienced, intelligent attorneys. How is it that when those 3 attorneys, this was not a surprise attack, those 3 attorneys were very seasoned, experienced, 3 attorneys with cross-examination history under their belt, prosecutors, got together the night before, prepared their attack. How are they not able to break Wade Robson?
How is victims not able to come forward in 30 years? That their wives don't know, their co-workers don't know, their friends don't know, the people that really can actually break them down. You want to talk about prosecutors? You talk about a wife not knowing, a family member not knowing, that lives with that person 24/7, that has no clue. No clue. That is what proves exactly what I'm saying. Prosecutor, what, do they have a week, 10 days, whatever, I don't know, maybe it was less, 3-4 days, I don't know. But in the sense of how long they can have with a witness. Try being married to somebody, living with them, sleeping with them, and not knowing that happened. Someone, that's really difficult. And that happens continually. It happens 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So don't try to use that argument. Again, you don't understand how this works, and that's what scares me. And that's what scares me when people like you come forward. You are shaming victims. I will keep on saying that. Shaming them. That's the destruction that you, Taj, Brandy Jackson, all of you are doing. And you might not think you're doing it. You might think you're doing it in this very, very credible way. But the reality is that is what you're doing because you don't understand how it works. You don't understand disclosure. You don't understand how it happens. The genesis of the abuse and how it takes so long for people to come forward and disclose. Disclosure is a huge process. And again, if the spouse, the mother, the sister, the best friend, etc. doesn't know, guess what? A prosecutor is not going to do any better. Not going to do any better. Let's go further.
You're trying to hide the truth, you're going to waver, you're going to do whatever. They went hard on Wade, a lot harder than they did on Macaulay, and a lot harder than they did on Brett Barnes, and simply because he was the first. And the reason he didn't change his story is because he was telling the truth. There's nothing to change.
Again, that is your opinion, and that's only your opinion. And again, I've seen you on, anyone can Google your name, and they can watch you on the Sycophant shows. So you continue to go on, have your little, your connection to Michael Jackson. But you know what? I am not going to allow misinformation like that to go out and continually drive information that's going to harm victims, that's going to harm the narrative. Not going to allow it. And I would love to debate you, by the way. I would love to. I would have a field day with you, Mr. Ross. A field day. Let's go further.
In Leaving Neverland, James Safechuck tells a story where Michael had asked him to testify. He says he refused, which led Michael to get angry and they never spoke again. Do you recall that situation? Do you recall James being asked to testify?
Jimmy Safechuck was never an issue during the trial. We did no work on him. We did no preparation on him. He was not an issue. He was never, ever going to testify. The court was never, ever going to allow him to testify. The court, Judge Melville, took him out of the mix long before the trial started.
Let's stop that there. Yes, they took him out of the mix for testifying for the prosecution. Okay? He still could testify as a character witness. But let's go beyond that. The reason why, and this is the excuse they use about Wade Robson, well, why would Michael Jackson want Wade Robson to testify if he knew that he abused him? Because he knew that he needed to keep these people corralled. He knew that James Safechuck wasn't coming forward and saying, hey look, because that's what he was probably expecting. I'm here if you need me. Me and my parents will testify for you. If he wasn't getting that call, guess what? He was making that call. Because he wanted to make sure that he didn't have a loose cannon out there that was going to come forward and say, hey look, I was abused. And that's what he didn't want. Now, whether that would have affected the trial, whether that would have been allowed, is irrelevant. It's what Michael Jackson's, what it was in his mind. It was what he was trying to make sure that all the pieces, all these victims, again, were corralled and subdued into submission. That's where that comes from. Let's go further.
Bottom line is Jimmy Safechuck was never ever going to talk to anybody. So whatever all of this nonsense is about, it's about personal greed.
Now, from my research and understanding of Michael, it appears that he surrounded himself with children because they saw a friend. Adults saw dollar signs.
Opportunity.
these opportunities. What do you think his mindset towards surrounding himself with children? Was it exactly that? You know, he saw people that weren't going to take advantage.
So that's called a leading question. So he's not interviewing Taj Jackson, not actually challenging Taj Jackson. What he's doing is he's throwing, like I said, this is a puff piece, a softball question to Taj, basically framing it. From my research, I saw somebody that felt that they were just going to be taken advantage of. Again, Michael Jackson's now again the victim. The victim forever. That's how they painted him. That's how they always will paint him. He was a victim, poor Michael Jackson. And he didn't want to be taken advantage of adults. So he used children to befriend him. You know, and that's why he did that. Like Michael Jackson is holier than thou. Everybody else is just out to get him. First of all, what a just obnoxious statement to make to begin with. And then to sit there and create the narrative, oh, that's why he's around children. Again, puff piece. Liam, everyone debate. I'm right here. Be like, literally, again, shooting ducks in a barrel.
Screw him over.
It was beyond that. It was living vicariously through people. He didn't have a childhood. He was in studio all the time, you know. He would ask us, me and my brothers.
Let's stop that right there. That's another insult. Didn't have a childhood. He had a whole bunch of brothers, his siblings, that were around his age. There were children that literally, in some countries, are dragged from their homes, have to fight, and literally, there's what they call the child army. And they're dragged from their homes. They literally handed a gun, told to shoot their parents, and then they go off and they basically do the bidding of some of the worst people you could possibly think of. Those children don't have a childhood. Or children that are literally in situations where their parents have both died because of starvation. They're literally living off of nothing, trying to find a way to survive. That's somebody who doesn't have a childhood. Okay? That's someone who doesn't have a childhood. Michael Jackson had brothers, he had siblings around the same age, he had opportunities, he had situations where it might not have been the childhood that he wanted. There's a difference. The childhood that he wanted. But there's no question he did have a childhood. You know, let's not try to create this picture. Because another insult to children that are really suffering. And suffering in major, major ways. Let's go further.
He would say, when we talked to him about a birthday party, he would be so intrigued. He'd be like, "What was it like?" You know.
Now I want to talk about something.
Well, I wonder. Yeah, he would ask that because he was a Jehovah's Witness, and Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in having birthdays. Were you going to ask him about that, Liam? Were you asking the fact that he was a Jehovah's Witness and that's part of the doctrine, that they don't believe in celebrating birthdays? Don't ask a follow-up question. Just kind of leave it the way it is. Phenomenal.
And that's mentioned in the film Leaving Neverland. They mentioned love faxes from Michael. I've got what the notes say here. One of the faxes, the love faxes, say, "Hello, Doodoo. You are the best of the kid dancers. Keep on towards perfection. You are now inspiring me to get better." Another one of the faxes says, "Make me happy, little one, and be the best. I love you." Now, as someone who knew Michael, as you say, so well, do these notes sound like him grooming this family?
No. And there's hundreds of, I would say hundreds, but there's tens and tens of us that have these notes. We've got some of the notes here. I have these, my brothers have these, you know, he was like that. If he thought his words could help you or inspire you, he would write you a letter.
There's this note here, that where he says Uncle Doodoo. He calls himself Uncle Doodoo, of course.
He's called himself Uncle Doodoo to us a lot.
In this note, he's calling Wade Doodoo.
Yeah. It's nothing uncommon about it, but in the wrong context. And when it's sinister context, people that don't know him or that don't know the context of it will look at it and be like, well, that's weird.
This one says...
No, what's weird is that he's sending faxes to a 7, 8, 9-year-old unrelated child. That's what's weird, Taj. That's what you don't seem to understand. The fact that he's using childlike language isn't it's bizarre. It's weird. I put a video up of Michael Jackson where he has a camera that he's testing for, I guess, Frank Casillo, and he's in the mirror, looking in the mirror, saying, "I'm not a narcissist," and then he's sitting there going, "Doo-doo, doo-doo, Applehead, Applehead," and he looks in the camera and goes, "What?" Like he's literally practicing for a role. I mean, it is incredibly revealing. Okay, but yeah, the language necessarily could be harmless. That's not the point. The point is that he's sending it to somebody who he has no real relationship with, that is unrelated to him, and he's sending multiple faxes over and over and over again. That's distressing. It's not something you overlook. It's something that you take fairly seriously. But let's go further.
Please rehearse. Yeah. I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
So
I love you all, yeah.
these are just really notes of encouragement.
Yeah, he has, I have a poster he wrote, you are the world and the world is yours, He was like that. He was like that, and that's, I think, the magic of him, too. He was always wanting you to be the best person you could be.
I want to talk about a situation that happened between Wade and a Cirque du Soleil show. Of course, there's a Cirque du Soleil show in Vegas. Now, in May 2011, a couple of years before the show premiered, Wade sent an email to the creative team at Cirque stating, and I quote, "I always wanted to do this MJ show badly." He then goes on in this email to say, "I know that I am meant to do this show. I am passionate to do this show. I want to make it amazing for me, for you, for Cirque, and of course, for Michael." The gig ended up going to
Jamie King, yes.
So obviously he didn't get the gig. I want to read a timeline. I've got a timeline.
Oh, nice. Okay.
May 2011, sent that email asking for the gig. July 2011 interview, he stated that he was starting on the show.
I'm starting on Cirque du Soleil Michael Jackson show, which is exciting and terrifying all at the same time because it's such a huge responsibility.
Sometime after that, Jamie King got the gig. Late 2012, Wade starts drafting a book about the alleged abuse. No publisher picks it up. 1st of May 2013, Wade files a civil lawsuit against the Michael estate for monetary compensation with claims of childhood sexual abuse. 16th of May 2013, Wade goes...
So he writes a little thing there, thrown out twice, but doesn't actually put the reasoning. This is exactly, again, Liam, you're really bad at this. You really are, in my opinion, you're really bad at this. Doesn't put out the fact that the case was not thrown out because of the merits. The case was thrown out, A, because of the statute of limitations in the first, and B, Judge Beckloff felt that Michael Jackson could not be held responsible in the sense of that his underlings could not report on him because he was 100% shareholder in the companies. That's essentially why those cases were thrown out. You won't discuss that at all. You just sort of let it lie in the air. And if, this is basically supposed to be a very, hard-hitting piece. And I love the beginning of it where you said, this is not to shame people of abuse. Well, guess what? You're doing a really good job of it, Liam.
Public with the allegations on television. A week later, May 23rd, 2013, Michael Jackson 1 Cirque du Soleil starts. It seems a little bit,
When you lay it out,
you lay it out like that.
People, you need to lay it out like that to people, otherwise they don't see it. They don't see the motivation of why he's doing certain things.
And of course, in between there was Julian's Auctions,
in 2011,
who have tweeted that Wade wanted to stay anonymous.
Yes.
He was selling some of his most, prized possessions. So it seems like during this time, and Wade has said that during this time he was having a mental breakdown, but it seems like a bit of a financial crisis as well.
He took the easy way.
Are there any other times post Michael passing?
Okay, so I was right. So that's what Taj says. He took the easy way. Taj, no, he didn't. And again, this is how your argument will be destroyed. The easy way would have been for him and his family to make a claim in 1993 when your uncle, Michael Jackson, not an insurance company, I'm going to state that very clearly, not an insurance company, that's according to Tom Mesereau, person defended him in 2005. Maybe you should take it up with Tom Mesereau. I don't know. Paid Jordan Chandler's family over $20 million, and then paid the Francia family over $2.5 million. Okay, and the Francia family, according to Jason Francia, it was Michael Jackson had fondled him over his clothing. Okay, this abuse, not to say that Jason Francia's abuse wasn't horrific, but this abuse even goes much further. If that's the case, but if they wanted to make it and a horrible thing and actually gain monetary value, gain a monetary settlement, guess what? That's the time to do it. Or in 2005, according to your own cousin, when he was just, Wade was just an awful person cheating on him. Oh, God forbid a teenager cheats on somebody. Such an awful person, but doesn't take the leap to actually file a criminal trial. Go with the prosecution, state that Michael Jackson, raped him for years, etc. Make that up because that's what you think he's making it up, and then walk into a civil court and get a whole bunch of money. That's the easy way, Taj. The difficult way is to wait when the statute of limitations is run out. Wait until you can't make a claim on the estate anymore. Wait until you have to have a case that's brought up against Michael Jackson's companies that's now in the appeal process. And this movie, by the way, is not going to have any effect in the appeal process. It's done by a judge. Judge doesn't care. Judge is going to look at the law. He's going to look at, what arguments are presented. He doesn't care if there's a documentary. But the reality is that that's what you don't seem to gather. You don't seem to get. You weren't saying that Wade doesn't have any credibility. No, your uncle doesn't have any credibility. He doesn't have any credibility because of his actions. But let's go further.
Where he asked to be part of a Jackson project.
Well, there is the memorial.
The memorial.
Yeah, the memorial was the first time. After that, Wade wanted to see the kids again, and so I made that happen. And it feels like a betrayal because, especially, I wish I could take it back. He was very thankful when it happened. And Joy even said at Havenhurst, my biggest fear is to lose contact with the family.
Wow.
And that to me, it says it all. It says it all.
No, what it says is that you have somebody that was infatuated with your uncle, was groomed by your uncle, and still cannot disconnect. And when your uncle passed away, then everything that he was taught, all the grooming, all that information, all the things that he believed encompassed him, was now dissolving. That's what you don't seem to understand. What's bothersome, Taj, is you are a CSA survivor. This is CSA 101. This is not difficult. It really isn't. It says that you haven't educated yourself. And what bothers me is, who is going after you in your story of survival, Taj? Who's going after you? Because I don't think anybody is. And if you had to deal with the same thing that Wade and James and Jordan and Gavin and Jason and Jane Doe and Michael Jacobs Hagen and and Terry George, if you had to go what they went through when you came forward, maybe you would understand it. It's beyond, in my opinion, reprehensible. And people who are survivors of abuse need to start getting vocal on this type of shaming. They need to. Let's go further.
Once they lost contact, once that CERT job ended, that was like the official, you're cut off.
Right.
And it's almost like a disgruntled employee.
Right.
I'm going to hurt you now.
When was the last time you saw either Wade or the Robson family? You mentioned the memorial, but post that.
Post that, I would see the Robson family often because we have a mutual friend. We have a very close mutual friend. And so every Christmas I would see Chantel and Joy. This was the first time this past year, the 2018 Christmas, that I was arriving with my wife and my
At a Christmas party?
At a Christmas party, and she was leaving.
Joy?
No, Chantel.
Chantel, the sister.
Was leaving with her, I think it's her husband. And she had her head down. And when I said hi to her, and it told me a lot. It didn't tell me a lot back then because I was just like, that's odd.
Yeah,
we've always been somewhat cordial,
Yeah.
but now knowing the situation, it makes sense.
Did you ever post?
It makes sense. So you're taking it on, oh, well, she's going to do a documentary and she's going to say all these things. No, she could also could have put her head down because maybe she didn't want to slug you, Taj. That could be the other reason as well. That she knows that her brother went through God knows what to have to deal with this. And the other part is maybe Taj, she actually liked you. She actually liked you as a person and feels very awkward over the fact that you weren't part of the abuse, obviously, but you are part of the, what I call the people that have bashed Wade since 2013. I give her credit. She actually kept her cool. If it was me, you'd be on the ground. Sorry, you would have been. You would come after my brother that way and stated that if he was claiming abuse, that he's a liar. You're lucky she's really reserved. You're very lucky.
2013, say to anyone in the family, that was odd that, Wade is saying this now.
No, I've talked to people that were around them or friends of them, and everyone has been somewhat trying to be supportive to Wade because they were friends with him, but at the same time didn't believe him, or at least 100% didn't believe him. That's where it's, and I've made that statement in many interviews that, if this is about Wade and James Safechuck, and it's about their journey and their discovery and whatever they want to say, it's like the reason they don't have a best friend that they interviewed is because a best friend probably didn't want to be on camera.
I wonder why. Why don't we think about Anthony Pellicano, Mr. Taj, and how loving your uncle was. He hired one of the biggest thugs you can think about. Who, by the way, I think I said this earlier, thinks that Michael Jackson did far worse things than actually molest little children, by the way. Who intimidated, would go up to people, harass, you name it. That's what he did to a lot of the people that he thought might come forward with claims against Michael Jackson. That's your loving uncle. That's the person he hired, Taj. Why don't you talk about that? No, of course he won't. And that's why he won't debate me, by the way. Because you know that I know all this. You are literally building your house on straw. It won't take a whole lot. It won't take a light wind to blow it away. Let's go further.
Charles Thompson is on the phone right now. He's a crime journalist and investigative reporter.
Oh, this is another one I would love to debate. This guy here is a piece of work. Let's go further.
Who is based in the UK. He's been studying the Jackson case for many years now. Charles, some of Michael's fans have been quick to find some inconsistencies within these guys' stories. Can you share some of those with me?
Yeah, well, of course, the glaring inconsistencies to begin with is that both of them have previously testified in Michael Jackson's favor. Then you look into the history of their allegations since they came forward, and they've repeatedly changed their stories since then. Wade Robson gives various conflicting stories as to why he testified in 2005, beginning with, I didn't realize that I'd been abused, and then changing into, did realize I'd been abused, but I didn't want to be responsible for sending him to prison, and then evolving into, I did realize that I'd been abused, but I was bullied and forced into testifying by Michael Jackson's lawyers. His story keeps changing. That's nothing to do with childhood trauma.
You have no clue of what you're talking about. None. All those things can be true. They all can be true. What Wade Robson is stating is that at the time when 2005 was happening, was that he wasn't ready to disclose. He wasn't ready to come forward. And yes, he also could have been intimidated by his attorneys. You have a very, very wealthy, powerful individual. Again, Anthony Pellicano, let's bring that name back. You don't seem to want to bring his name up at all. that's what he was facing. And I know that you don't want to actually, address this, but maybe you should. And again, this guy here, he has on a piece of work. This guy. Sycophant, my opinion, sycophant, apologist of the century.
That's a very recent event that happened when he was an adult, and he still can't get his story straight. I think the most important thing for people to know...
again, let's shame victims again. Do you have any idea that inconsistencies when it comes to people remembering abuse is very common? Do you have any clue of that? Have you actually done any research on disclosure, on compliant victimization? Do you have any clue whatsoever? That's very difficult. There's something called disassociation. A lot of times you might think something happened in the sense of where you were or what location what it was at, and then not even be correct on it. The abuse happened, but you just don't remember all the details. It's pieced together. It's very, very common for people that have suffered from abuse. But you don't talk to these types of people. You sit there and you go and you try to poke holes and sit there and say, I'm a Michael Jackson researcher. No, you're an apologist is what you are. A grown man's taking young children into bed with him, alone. Alone. Is that what you're defending? Is that how you want to be remembered, Mr. Thompson? Unfreaking real. And people ask why abuse is so prevalent, why it happens, why society cannot get this right. You have people like this, literally like this. Instead of saying, you know what, I don't know if Michael Jackson did this or not, but I in no way can support him because that man did inappropriate things in the sense of how he took children alone in a bed and how he wanted to advocate for that sort of behavior. That's what takes a real man. That's what takes a real man to stand up and stand up for. Not to sit there and try to have this mental gymnastics over why he did or he didn't. The reality is a man that acted totally inappropriately around children. He should never have been allowed to be around children, my personal opinion. Because of the fact that he could not create proper barriers. And those barriers are important because those are the safeguards that protect children. Again, it's kind of fun, but it's also incredibly frustrating. Let's go further.
The film starts off quite convincingly by presenting the viewer with a lot of evidence that substantiates the early part of the story about meeting Michael Jackson, about hanging out with him for the first time. So they're playing home movies, they're showing you photographs, and so they're luring you in and getting you to believe in these guys' narrative by showing you evidence that corroborates that yes, they did meet and know Michael Jackson. But then as soon as it departs and takes a dark turn and starts talking about abuse, what you notice is all of the evidence just disappears. For instance, when they start talking about going to Neverland and having sleepovers, there is no evidence of this. And you have to go to the court documents to find the evidence which either corroborates or undermines these allegations, and the evidence overwhelmingly undermines it.
I've also seen some claims that James Safechuck stories have been copied from a book. Can you confirm that? Is there any truth to that?
Well, it's a matter of interpretation. So there's a guy called Victor Gutierrez. In the 90s, he published a book which was called Michael Jackson Was My Lover, and which said on the cover that it was...
Oh, really? The book you mean that I don't know if you, but a lot of the apologists and Michael Jackson fanatics seem to love to quote, because there's a drawing in that book that they say came from Evan Chandler, Jordan Chandler's father, that proves that Jordan Chandler was lying. They love to take that part of the book out, but this is what you think it was based on. Unreal.
Based on the secret diary of Geordie Chandler. It's almost like a 50 Shades of Grey for pedophiles. It's like a piece of erotic literature about Michael Jackson.
That's one thing I agree with you on. Victor Gutierrez, that book was a disgrace. I never reference it. I don't like it. I think it's an absolute piece of disgrace. But the people in your camp seem to love to reference that book.
Supposedly having sex many, many times with Geordie Chandler, and many of the details from that book are very similar to details from James Safechuck's allegations, even though that book was completely dismissed by the Chandler family, who said it was a work of fiction and that they had nothing to do with it. So it is suspicious. I don't think it's substantiated. I wouldn't stake my reputation on it and go as far as to say that Safechuck has copied the book, but there are notable similarities.
No, but you would go and say the similarities, you know. Guess what? You have staked your reputation on it, because instead of saying, no, I'm not even going to discuss that, you just go on and you sort of placate the person that's asking the questions. Again, these people are unfreaking real. Let's go further.
So here are some of the similarities between James Safechuck's lawsuit and this book. Pages 57 and 58 of the book mentions Michael rented movies with historic and foreign themes that featured minors participating in lewd acts. Safechuck's lawsuit paragraph 60 says that Michael showed him foreign books and movies that featured minors engaging in the same lewd acts mentioned in the book. Another similarity, page 40 of the book says that Jackson was jealous of a girl that Jordan Chandler liked. Paragraph 39 of Safechuck's lawsuit says Jackson was jealous of Safechuck's crush on Sheryl Crow, who was Michael's backup singer at the time.
Oh my God, you mean that Michael Jackson, who is sleeping with James Safechuck, would actually be jealous of maybe James Safechuck having an interest in a woman, you know, in a girl? You don't think that is unheard of? Or the fact that Michael Jackson showed him, you know, foreign book that Michael Jackson actually owned, that they found and seized in a locked filing cabinet? No, you gotta be kidding me. That's just unbelievable. Let's go further.
Pages 37 and 38 of the book says that when going to sleep with Michael, Jordan Chandler noticed that Michael put a bandage over his nose to hold it in place. Safechuck's lawsuit, paragraph 24, says before going to sleep, Safechuck noticed Michael used a bandage to cover his nose. In the book, page 80, it says Michael made the children drink alcohol. In Safechuck's lawsuit, paragraph 60, it says Michael made Safechuck drink alcohol. Book, pages 21 and 22, it says that Jordan Chandler was jealous of Brett Barnes, who was Michael Jackson's friend at the time, who to this day says that nothing happened between them.
And I wonder, Mr. Liam, what if Brett Barnes does come forward? How are you gonna make another video like this going after Brett Barnes? Because I can tell you this, Mr. Liam, because I've seen it. I can guarantee if he ever did come forward, the next day he would be attacked. The next day he would. They would drop him so quickly, it would make your head spin, and then you would have Taj Jackson going on and the rest of them talking about how awful Brett Barnes is. You know, if that ever happened. But you know the difference between me and you? If he did come forward, I would listen to his story. I would give it a chance. I would actually try to process it. People like you don't. Again, personal opinion. They don't. Because I've seen it in action. And this biased video that you've done shows it 100%. Let's go further.
Safechuck's lawsuit, paragraph 62, Safechuck was jealous of Brett Barnes. Now, those are just a few of the similarities there. There are a few more, but due to the graphic nature of them, I'm not going to be sharing them. Obviously, this is all alleged, but it's hard to deny that this book shares many similarities with James Safechuck's lawsuit and stories. This just gets wilder every single day.
So that's the end of the video. Again, puff piece. You should be the next Barbara Walters because you're great on fluff pieces. You essentially started out with the narrative you wanted to start out with. You did interviews without actually doing any, further investigation or any putting any callback questions to the people you're interviewing. Just, Taj Jackson says, I'm just gonna go with that. Yeah. Oh, Brandy Jackson says, I'm just gonna read that. Yeah. Mr. Thompson says that. That sounds good. No follow-up questions, no actual digging, none of it at all. That's why I think I call it shaming of victims. Because when you can't even do the basics, you can't even do a simple follow-up question, you little hack. And that's what I'm going to call you, because that's what you are. That's called hack journalism. When you can't even do the follow-up questions, guess what? You are just working for the Jackson machine. That's what you're doing. Congratulations. That's what you're doing. You're working for them, and what's sad is that you are supporting a man that took a grown man in his 30s and 40s that took young children alone into a bed multiple times. Who has 8 accusers now, who has 2 cash settlements, who had 2 books edited by pedophiles, 4 pedophiles, in a locked filing cabinet, The Boy, and another book called Boys Will Be Boys. I did the research on it. It's already on the page. There's a huge article on those books, by the way. Someone did some phenomenal research on who they were edited by, why they were edited, etc. Okay? The fact that you have a man that even when he was accused in 93, didn't step back and say, well, gee, I don't think it's right for a grown adult to be sharing a bed with a child. That's what you're supporting. That's what you're supporting. And you're also supporting an estate that not once, at least what I've seen, hasn't come forward and said to the Michael Jackson fanatical mob, hasn't said anything to them saying, you know what, look, we don't want you making death threats, we don't want you terrorizing, harassing, bullying these individuals. I haven't heard it come from Taj Jackson's mouth once. It's deplorable. And you know why you say that? Even if you don't believe Wade and James are telling the truth, you know why you say that? Because you don't want to start a precedent that anyone that comes forward, take Michael Jackson out of the picture, and accuses anybody, that is how they're treated. I've been dealing with this particular case and these accusations and researching the situation. I have never seen a more irresponsible and just grotesque attack of individuals claiming child abuse ever. Didn't happen. This is not as bad as the Sandusky case. It's not as bad as the Cosby case. It's not as bad as the Fogel case. It's not as bad as the Seville case. It's not as bad as even what happened in the Catholic Church. The amount of just absolute verbal venom that comes after these individuals. It is disgusting, and I wish a reporter would report on this. Report seriously. Find out who some of these people are and actually go and do the groundwork and confront them and say, hey, look, why are you going after these men the way you're going after them? Again, this is what happens with something like this is it shames people. It drives them further down. And that's why, in many ways, you have to be passionate about that part of this story. It's one of the most important part of this story that doesn't get publicized enough. So that was Neverland firsthand investigating the Michael Jackson documentary from, my opinion, Mr. Hack Liam McEwen. If you ever want to date, it's a date. If you ever want to debate, he looks like Kenny G. If you ever want to debate Liam, I'm here. No problem. No problem whatsoever. Let me just see. I haven't even looked to see who's even watching this. It's on my backup channel, so let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, well, there are people, and I had no idea people would even be on this channel. Yeah, I had no idea people are even. Thank you for watching. I put it on this channel because, just in case this guy makes a copyright claim or whatever, I don't know. You know, it. Again, what bothers me is that this is just so transparent, in my opinion. Okay, that interview was an incredibly good example of how not to properly do an interview and not to properly. They talk about how one-sided Leaving Neverland is, but yet that interview, which was nothing more than a train wreck, was, you know, I don't know how many views he has, 9,000, he'll probably have more, because he's catering to the sycophants. But he probably won't get more than 20, 30, because, you know, again, I keep on saying they make this crowd to seem a lot bigger than what it is. It really isn't that big, people. I keep on stressing this. It really isn't. What it is a group of very organized individuals that know how to galvanize and go after the story. And I keep on stating, the coup de grace in all this is that statement I put out today, that you want us to believe that these people are opportunists. And if you're talking about Joy Robson, you know, if you're saying that that's the person that brought Wade Robson over and she's the queen of opportunity, I think she would have recognized an opportunity in '93. I think she would have recognized an opportunity in 2005. Okay, or 2003 when the allegations first came out. And Wade would have as well. Opportunists don't change their stripes. They don't really usually become. Usually that's how they kind of are, their whole life, that's how they act. Okay? And that would have been the perfect time to make those allegations. Right then and there. No, they waited for the worst possible time. And the idea of, oh, it was Cirque du Soleil. First of all, Cirque du Soleil was not Wade Robson's whole career, and even Dan Reed said they saw an email in 2012 that talked about how Wade Robson had to back out, that he just wasn't prepared for it. You know, and I keep on stating this. You know, when you're dealing with disclosure and you're finally ready to come forward, one of the first emotions you have is anger. You're angry at yourself for not coming forward sooner, and you're angry at the person that did the abuse because you're realizing what it really was. So you try to get your story out as best as you possibly can, and in some cases you want to, you know, if you need to bring a lawsuit, if you need to, you know, write it out in written format, like what they said with Wade in a book, if you need to, you know, really make people hear how it hurt you, that's how you react. That's normal human behavior. What's not normal is what they keep on putting under the carpet. You know, this, well, he slept with young pre-adolescent children because he didn't have a childhood. It's a load of garbage. You don't get a pass. Like I said, I don't buy the whole he didn't have a childhood thing either. I don't think he had the childhood he wanted. There's a difference. I keep on stating that. I don't think he had the childhood he wanted, but I think there were really children of him who never had a childhood. There's total difference. So I'm going to try to read some of your comments. I'm not going to be on much longer just because it's so freaking frustrating. I'm sorry. God. Oh, sometimes you just want to. And the guy really did look a younger version of Kenny G, just to be honest. Let's go for it. I'm just going to see if I can go up here because I don't know how to. There we go. Okay, I know. Good. There's not a whole lot of comments on here. Yeah. Again, the insurance company thing is a load of crap. There's no doubt in my mind the insurance company thing is is a load of garbage. Insurance companies are not going to pay for criminal activity, no matter how the lawyers phrase it. And again, there was articles I posted on during the time that talk about how Johnny Cochran's move was to get an insurance company to pay for the claim. But even let's say let's say I'm totally wrong on that. Insurance company can't make you settle. That you choose on your own. It's just ridiculous. The Brandy piece was really nauseating. I dated him when I was 9 years old, and I stopped. Well, he said 9 years, so what, 19, 18? 17, 18, and he cheated on me, so that must mean, please. How many, again, it's like, that somehow gives credence to anything. Maybe, Brandy, maybe you were upset that Wade cheated on you, and this is your payback to him. Maybe we can use your logic. You were so upset that Wade Robson cheated on you that you decided to come out and make these claims against him, because that's the way you guys operate, huh? That's the way you and your family tend to try to smear people. Maybe we can use that to smear you. Maybe you're just jealous and you just wanted to get back at Wade. Why don't we use that? Use your two puzzle piece logic. It's infuriating in some ways. I don't think Anthony King's still in there. Did you mention, maybe I'm wrong, Anthony, did you mention that it was your brother that was the choreographer for Cirque du Soleil, or it was just someone with the same last name? I'm not sure. Yeah. So, like I said, it is purely, I agree they are nauseating, and I agree that that they're just, it's just frustrating. But what bothers me even more is when you try to, the video was very, very professionally done. It was well put together, but the information's garbage. It's absolute garbage because you don't follow up on any questions. Yeah, I don't think so. Oprah's not apologizing. I haven't heard any of that. Oprah is a billionaire. She could care less what the Michael Jackson fans think. She's a billionaire. She could buy and sell them 20 times over. No, I don't believe that Oprah is backtracking at all. Whatsoever. I'm sure that's another, story they're trying to put out there to discredit Wade and James. She understands how grooming works. She understands how disclosure works. She understands, that inconsistencies happen. She's not a fool. And again, she could care less what Michael Jackson fans think. She could care less. She could have every single Michael Jackson fan on the planet never watch or buy anything that she does, and she will be able to live well beyond anyone's dreams for years and years and years to come. So no, I don't buy that for 1 second. But anyways, that is tonight's live stream, and again, this is the first time I haven't really used this backup channel, but for tonight, I thought it might be a good idea. So thank you for watching, and everyone have a good night.